Good day to everyone, and it's my esteemed pleasure to be here today to present at the Wireless Technology Summit 5G Americas. Again, I'm so grateful for Jose Otero for taking the time out of inviting me and his wonderful support staff in giving us this opportunity to present from little Jamaica as to what is happening in this wonderful world of the digital landscape. Today I have a presentation to touch on a few things. It is exciting times ahead of us, of course. We just finished the World Radio Conference in Dubai, WRC 23. Jamaica has a new footnote where we have shifted from taking a portion of the 600 band and making it IMT fixed services. And a number of things are happening in the sphere as we speak to embrace the new technologies that are coming forward. So I hope you find my presentation informative and noteworthy. And again, of course, you can always reach out to me with my contacts. Thank you again for this opportunity. And now I'm going to move straight into my presentation today on what I called the digital landscape for Jamaica. Here we go. And we're going to start from the beginning. So over time, as we know, the scape is digitally divided, digitally in tuned, and most importantly, it's market driven and dynamic in nature. I hope today to cover a number of things. Well, of course, you know, I represent Spectrum Management Authority, the regulator for radio frequency in Jamaica. Also, we are the technical support arm for the government of Jamaica. We're going to look at the digital landscape, both internally and externally to Jamaica. What has happened in terms of what has changed in the landscape. For example, there's this big ticket item called data protection, and the policies promoting best practices within the space. Innovation in the wireless spectrum from the introduction of 5G, where are we? Now we're looking at 6th generation, as well as Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7. And of course, we're looking at how we're still bridging that digital divide, broadband access across the island. And most importantly, issues impacting the regulator and the future of connectivity. How does that look like, and where are we going with that? So just to carry us back and to center us at all times, we want to look at the why. Why do we do what we do? And right in front of us, we have, of course, the ICT policy and objectives for Jamaica. And under Section 4, it is evidently clear that we have to ensure efficient spectrum planning. Allocation is done at the ITU level. However, in terms of assignment and accommodating international best practices, all applications we look at across the board have to facilitate these key points. Emerging wireless technologies. What are the economic benefits? Are we attracting the right investments in our country? And the protocol to declaring the treatment of the licensing spectrum from exemption spectrum, which we're seeing quite a bit of, especially in the 6 gigahertz space. All this dovetails into the Vision 2030 and our national outcome, of course, a strong economic infrastructure, where we see the development of ports now being automated. Even through when you come through immigrations in Jamaica, it is so welcoming. Your facial recognition determines how you pass through. So we're using technologies at different entry points now at our ports and into this whole space of how we operate as a business. National outcome number 11, the technology-enabled society, more and more. Since 2020 till now, there has been an extreme drive in terms of how persons are utilizing wireless technology as well as implementation of technologies within their business and their homes. And in industry, of course. So spectrum management strategy, and this is key. Our national spectrum strategy has to be planned to manage the radio frequency spectrum which is extremely complex resource. It is a limited resource and critical in everyday life, from the person that lives in the foothill of the country to the person that goes to school in Kingston. The spectrum strategy is a highly leveled policy statement that provides that roadmap for strategies on the sector that sets a course of prolonged leadership in advance of wireless technologies and services throughout our country. And I put this slide up to always remind us on the sustainable goals. And across the UN and in Jamaica, we are faced with all of these at all times. So we have the economic development. What are we doing to improve our economy, addressing all the needs of our economy, addressing the social challenges, whether it be crime, whether it be family planning, whether it be even road infrastructure, the change in user behavior. We have seen a lot of this, especially after COVID. A lot of number of businesses have become online and accessible, and we have to also be inclusive, ensuring that we are touching not only the neotypical individuals, but also individuals with special needs and abilities that ensure that no person is left behind. Security is critical, cybersecurity, and the whole aspect of it is now being managed on a national level, and all government agencies are paying keen eye to cybersecurity and to security aspects of both our borders, our shore, and especially our data. And finally, the impact on current regulations. We always have to check ourselves to ensure that we are in tune with what we say we need to do and how we do it as a nation. So looking at policies that promote best practice, for example, I know, for example, in Brazil, there is a sense of a cashless auction. And in our case, we use it as a screen evaluation instrument where we not only look at the price that spectrum is being sold at, but how is it being used? What are the proposed coverage gaps? Because again, we must ensure that the underserved and the unserved are captured in those pockets. Maybe they're not so economically viable for a telco, but how can government work with these telcos to ensuring that we reach these persons and promote these best practices? So good market design is fundamental in implementing any type of competitive process, because for the production of complex moral and hazard adverse sections are really difficult than the vanilla type of auctions that we've seen in the past. So more and more we have to put people first, and that has to be built into our policy. So if you look very closely at the use of technology, the need to become critical, and I mean, these are just some of the best used in the space in terms of the average man. You have consumption of data anywhere, anytime, and multiple of devices. The regulatory bodies are working to ensure that telecommunication sector is well prepared for these emergencies and enabling the telecommunication sector to embrace advances like artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and beyond all of this. And again, we can see this as a global trend throughout our environment as well as the world. So promoting innovation and connectivity. How do we balance this? So spectrum management and technology advancements, we are neutrally, technically aligned, meaning that we don't want to support one technology over the other, but we have this fiduciary responsibility to our people to ensuring that the promotion of technology and innovation is adapted to our environment. It's very critical for this that we don't have wastage. So our regulations often include measuring, aiming or promoting infrastructure developments. And I spoke briefly in my introduction about the ports. Recently, our ports are automating and have put in LTE in a number of areas where it would have been a manual system. Now they get information on an ongoing basis, and they can make timely decisions in terms of management and even efficiencies. So again, deploying high-speed broadband and establishment of reliable communication infrastructure, especially in the rural areas, is so critical, not only from the standpoint of just being connected, but also of farming communities Our communities are also part of our existence, can actually connect and use information in an informed manner. Data protection is absolutely critical as well, because now we're in an era where the Data Protection Act is in tray, and we have to be mindful of privacy concerns becoming focal point for telecommunication regulators. We internally have a data protection officer who his own purpose in life is to ensure that we are adhering to policies and conforming to these practices under the law. Because again, at the end of the day, we have to provide individuals with the controls over their personal information and foster security and trustworthy digital environment. So let us take a little talk about Jamaica. And I know I maybe have mentioned this map in the beginning when the island, and we saw where we're pretty much the green areas showing the served, the underserved is in yellow, and the totally unserved is actually in red. Now, our census is still going on, so this data is still credible until the census is completed by the end of this year and the results are in, where we still have a number of underserved households and unserved persons, as you can see by the graph in front of you. Now, what have we been doing? Again, we have that 4 pillars of action. We have universal broadband access as our primary aim, maximizing our existing assets, delivering shovel-level projects, and incentivizing investments in broadband and cellular infrastructure. And of course, modernizing government to remove barriers. And one of those barriers was the cap. Before we had the screen, which is now in place, we had a cap where each telco had to use a certain amount of spectrum to do what they needed to do, and which we found was defeating the purpose of actually universal coverage. So this barrier was actually removed, so to speak, in around 2021, thereabouts, when we started utilizing the screen. Our partners are so vital to this process. We have the Fair Trading Commission, we have our ministry, MSET, the Civil Aviation, OUR, NEPA, the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, and the Broadcast Commission. Without these key people within our space, we could not move as fast in terms of crafting policy and mobilizing things in place to ensure a speedy outcome, which we're very pleased on. So how did we bridge the digital divide to somewhat? We are trying very much, sir, to working towards developing the internet to be open, global, connected, secure, reliable, and trustworthy. We have put a number of frameworks in place. The licensing framework also has gone through some changes. In 2022, we also looked at what policies could frame and improve upon how we regulate and how we improve upon issuing the license, especially in the area of the LEOs and NEOs, which I'll get to later on down in my presentation. Monitoring inspection has taken a whole new shape. We have rolled out over 14 sites locally where we have remote monitoring taking place. Field work is taking place as well. And we have introduced a number of technologies, such as drone technology and even more drive-through. We have now maybe the possibility of 3 vehicles where we actually go through and inspect to ensure and to minimize the interference of spectrum users within the field. Sometimes unintentional persons, of course, put up networks, and at their risk of not consulting the SMA, they run the risk of interference even within their network. And again, facilitation of new technologies is critical, as in the case of Jamaica Public Service, our power company, which is moving strides to improve upon how they deliver power and manage power within the space. At a glance, if we look at the telcos in the region, we're looking at ReadyNet, Flow, Digicel, Rock Mobile, our newcomer, which is coming out of the blocks, IslandNet, who's no stranger to Jamaica in terms of fixed services across the organization, across the Caribbean, and across Jamaica. And of course, National Work Agency, which is the government's arm in terms of rolling out fiber to the government offices across Jamaica. I pulled this slide just to give you an highlight of one of the innovations happening here in Jamaica. And as early as 2020, where Viasat actually partnered with an entity, ReadyNet, to provide a terminal using a geo and provided fixed wireless services in a very remote location. And there we have the person in charge of universal access, along with the CEO, Mr. Christopher Daring, our minister, of course, standing very proudly, demonstrating community wireless in that space. And as you can see, the area, the terrain, very rural in the foothills of Jamaica, Hamilton Mountain in St. Mary. And if you and there it is, the terminal actually projecting, giving free internet access to a community, and of course allowing children and persons who are doing business through the internet that opportunity. Here's another site, of course, and again giving you an idea of how it works in terms of for a school. There's a school circled in yellow, Mount Angus Primary, and this again is in St. Mary. And look at the terrain. Not it is very it's sparsely occupied. If you compare this to Kingston, there'll be many homes around the place and many lines of fiber running. But in an area like this, there is no fiber. So again, we have this opportunity to put these type of technologies in place and to promote the whole aspect of connectivity. This is GovNet, and I spoke about the National Works Agency. And one of the things is a private public sector partnership where we are running lines across the island, connecting not only schools, but also parish councils. We're connecting police stations and a number of public body entities, ensuring that there is connectivity. And in the middle, of course, is wireless running and connecting back the fiber across the island. Because again, if you know Jamaica, quite a bit of our backbone is very mountainous. Now, what are the issues impacting our environment? The regulator now needs to look at what is changing. What is changing in the environment? Quite a bit. So wireless technology continues to evolve, and it has evolved to the point that now we have to strategize and work very closely with our partners to ensure that there is a win-win at all times, making sure that we're working and aligning with them in terms of what new technologies are coming in. We have 5G. Although Jamaica is a little bit behind, I would say, we still have 3G running and LTE. We are hoping that we will see this side of 5G being tested in 2024-25. What does this mean? That we'll have to look at the sunsetting of 3G eventually. I know many telcos have started the 2G sunsetting, and again, those sensors take time to shut down and to move to the next technology. Because unlike the large countries of the world, Jamaica is a small population. So everything takes time and funding. So again, we're going to see quite a bit of transitioning taking place from LTE to 5G over this period. So putting additional spectrum in the space, and that's why we go back to the whole repurposing of the 600. And that footnote that was done at WRC 23 was a very important step for Jamaica. Now we're taking a portion of that 600 band, which was really reserved for broadcasting. And the good news with broadcasting is that they have become more efficient with the ATSC 3.0 standard that they're implementing and rolling out. Digital TV is far more efficient than analog. So that gave us that opportunity to put such smaller guard bands in to promote the existence or the co-location of IMT beside broadcasting, which is something that other countries in the region have done too, and we have just joined that footnote. So the congestion of the RF spectrum also is something that we are watching, and it may lead to unintentional interference and degradation of services. and traditional monitoring approach do not scale to the current and future challenges. So what have we done? We've invested in R&D, we're invested in technologies, we've invested in a number of things and training of our personnel to ensure that we're keeping up with what is happening in the wider space. And as I do this, no pun intended, space has become the new frontier. And as many persons said, as we looked at the agenda items for 2027, we see that it's going to be about space. And having the technologies to regulate space is so critical. The countries without the technology will have to rely on countries, so as the US and the first world countries, and collaboration is absolutely critical. And I mention again the whole matter of the swarm technology, that this entity, although they were denied at FCC level in the US, they went to another region, they went to India, and they launched, and it's just by collaboration through the ITU that again this entity was halted, and, and insurance were made to make certain that they were launching in a very safe manner. The buy-in to the Space Safety Coalition of 2019 is absolutely fundamental. And even so, I'm proud to, even though it is really in its embryonic state, we are moving towards looking at signing on to the Latin American and Caribbean Space Agency in this year, which means therefore we are taking the whole matter of space and all the sensors and all the different constellations in that space in a very, very serious manner. Now, facing us again is a lack of ubiquity blanket licensing around the region. You find that we're still grappling with the whole processing of the LEOs. Because in the past, as you know, when we are talking as regulators, we're accustomed to geos and how geos performed in the past, but even more so, geos have changed in how they offer their services and how they're utilizing space. Likewise, the LEOs and MEOs. So what we're noticing that thousands of new satellites are there overtaxing the frequency allocated. And, there is some talk about spectrum sharing and regulations repurposing certain bands. SpaceX, Starlinks, and Cupid. I mean, these are some of the persons who are on the sidelines coming in. But we have the Viasats, the Intersats, the Emersats who are there in that space too. How can we get along? And then there he was, the whole concept of the angle of avoidance and the issues with the LEOs and the GEOs, which I believe a study was commissioned, and we are looking now to getting some type of information as to where we are going as it relates to this. So the future of connectivity, and this slide said so many things, and I've put the last mile in. Because yes, we have industry, we have commerce, we have the ports, we have aeronautical, we have schools, we have farmers, and all need to be connected somehow. But that last mile has always been that challenge. How do we really and truly ascertain that last mile? And the last mile, in my humble opinion, will be done through a degree of various conversions. So we have ATSC on one side, which is proven to actually offer some delivery services to persons in rural communities. Yes, now let's say in urban towns, we consume our content via fiber. But there are persons, again, as I've illustrated, I have no fiber. They're in the foothills. They're in places where they're in the mountains and they have to rely on a wireless signal. So a number of things will have to happen differently. We'll have Wi-Fi, we'll have 5G in certain areas, but we're going to have a mix of different technologies within the space, not one dominating the space, but a mixture of individuals working to have some degree of convergence. And where I saw this as something in doing my research for this presentation, I came upon this example, this beautiful example, where partnership demonstrated the use of various technologies, where we had a LEO, we had a GEO, and then we had coming down within the space some degree of fixed links wireless connecting to a laptop. And I do believe that this was actually something that was tested at the Maritime Defense Technology Hub in St. Petersburg in Florida. And each partner brought a unique experience to this event, included systems integrated into a live geo-leo cellular link, which is something carrying the signal straight to handset. That is something that is going to be inevitable. And this is the future I see not only in Jamaica, but across the world. Partnerships, establishing how we're going to harmonize and move forward using the scarce resources as we know it. So convergence is the order of the day. And at the end of the day, who do we put at that center? The people. People make things matter. It's not just about us having technology for technology's sake, but so much so the average man. How and what and why will he connect and the benefits derive as a society? Again, I want to thank you for your attention today. I hope that you found this informative, and I thank you again for the honor for being here, present and ready. Have a good day, everyone. Bye bye.